Welcome, everybody. I am Daniel. I am the founder of Startup CPG. If you're watching us on YouTube now, hit the subscribe button, then you'll get notified when all of our recordings are posted here. And I am so excited to have Park Plank from Dot Foods here. I probably everyone who's on here really appreciates just how important Dot Foods is in the overall food service ecosystem and how lucky we are to actually get to hear some of this incredible info straight from Park. And I really also thank you, Park, and the whole team for just starting to meet with a lot of brands, even at our booth at the show. It's been just really incredible and just such a wonderful opportunity for all the brands who get to work with you guys. I have worked with you personally and just always had such high respect for everybody at Dot, who are just people who just get stuff done, to use the right word and the stuff word. But that's how I always view Dot people. So I'm going to pass it to you just to start in a second, but then I also just want to introduce our partners from First Bite. So Reed and Matt, I think, are on here. So First Bite, we've done some really cool stuff with. They have a very cool tool for prospecting and targeting. So I wanted to thank them for just helping us put this on today. And towards the end of the webinar today, we'll invite them back up to do a little bit of a demo. You guys will think this is very cool. You're like, oh, that's the stuff we didn't know how to do in food service. So looking forward to that. All right. So Park, I'm just going to pass to you to just start kicking off here.
So, hi everybody. Appreciate everybody taking the time to jump on here. I met Daniel at where were we, Daniel? Fancy Foods West, I think, is when you and I first met. And and my team I know met with a number of brands at Expo, and certainly appreciate those meetings and that opportunity. But I'm Park Plank, Director of Business Development for New Suppliers at Dot Foods. So I've been with Dot for 36 years, both in sales and business development. The most recent and last probably 15 years or so on our new supplier team. And I took over that group probably about 5 years ago. So I've got four folks that some of you have met with that work with new brands that go out and look for new suppliers. Then I've got a team of five that actually launches new suppliers, goes through the process once we put a program together. And then I've also got one person. We've made a little bit of a change this year. When we do onboard a brand, we have a business development manager named Ryan Dunn. And basically, Ryan takes everybody and holds them by the hand for about the first year that they're in our program. The thought being that that first year is usually the most critical in terms of getting integrated into our business, understanding how we do things, giving you the attention that you need and deserve to be able to have a good experience with Dot and really get things going. So that's my team. That's a little bit about my background. The way I'm going to do this, I've got this deck here that I'm going to probably get through a little more quickly than most. I really want to get to the questions that you folks have, and hopefully this generates some of those questions. But I want to talk just real briefly about the history of the company, talk about our role in the supply chain, then a little bit just kind of the bricks and mortar and the trucks and all that kind of stuff that we've got and how we get around the country. Talk about the customers and channels that we serve. A little bit about our costing model, and then the fun stuff is the sales and marketing side, where this is how these are the tools that we have available and how we integrate with our brands and supplier partners to help them grow their business. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into that, talk a little bit real briefly about Dot Foods as a company. If this thing would advance, that would be good. There we go. So Dot was founded in 1960 by Robert and Dorothy Tracy. Robert and Dorothy had 12 kids, the instant warehouse staff and sales force. They were in Mount Sterling, Illinois, in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, in the middle of a cornfield. And they really started as a consolidator in the dairy industry. So they were consolidating dairy ingredients and selling to dairies kind of in a just-in-time approach. And today we've grown to be the largest redistributor in North America, offering about 125,000 products in LTL quantities to distributors, wholesalers, and retail chains in all 50 states, and even some countries, some outside countries. We are still very much a family business. Those are the 12 kids in the circle there. There's two in-laws there that were also very involved in the business. Our CEO and our CEO of our holding company and our executive chairman of our holding company are the only three that are still from the second generation involved in the business. So that's John, Joe, and Dick of the Tracy family that are still involved in the business day to day. We do have the third generation coming. As I mentioned, the first or the second generation is 12. Well, the third generation is 47. So, and I think the fourth generation now is up over 50 as this the third generation proliferates. But we have 13 3Gs, as we call them in the business. Nine of those are actually children of the second generation, and then four of those are in-laws. So my point being here is Dot is still very committed to being a family business. We like where we are. We like the ability to be flexible. We like the ability to just kind of operate as a family business. So, and many of our customers and even the brands that we represent, suppliers we represent, are family businesses, and we feel like we've got a lot in common there. So, again, just wanted to do that very briefly about the company. Our role in the supply chain, we kind of sit in a unique spot. We're between the supplier and the distributor or the self-distributor. So, we partner with suppliers by bringing large quantities of their products into our network. We take title of the product, inventory of the product in our network, and I'll talk about our network here in a minute. And then we sell our product in consolidated loads to distributors, food service distributors, retail wholesalers, convenience store distributors, self-distributing chains in the convenience and grocery business. So we're kind of multi-channel across all dimensions, and that's kind of where we sit in the middle of the supply chain. Daniel, if anything comes up that you feel like you need to jump in here, just stop me and I'll hit that.
No, this is good. And can I like also just tell you here like how I think about Dot, and you can tell me accurate, like inaccurate. Basically, like the way I think about Dot is if especially as an emerging brand, you're trying like you guys are a redistributor, right? Which means you distribute to all of those huge distributors like Cisco and Gordon Food Service, all those guys, and also the smaller ones if you're just trying to hit a distributor in Chicago who can get to that like one, chain that you have just opened up of gyms or something, then you can do that too. So like I always thought of Dot as if you need just a couple cases delivered to a distributor in Chicago and all these other places too, like Dot are the ones who can do that because they basically like can work with emerging brands and get your product to the distributors all over the country. Is that a good way to think about it?
That's fair. That's I think I'll get into kind of who the customers are and break that segmentation down a little bit because I think you're right. When you look at our volume, it's the Cisco and PFGs and Gordon and US Foods of the world that drive a lot of our volume. But when I get to the slide on our customer base, I'll talk a little bit about, there's that many of those, and then there's thousands below that are really hard to get product to.
Right. And I know there are others, even specific retail chains like I think CVS and some others that you guys work with. Okay, cool.
I'll
Thanks.
hit all of those here in a minute, but
Keep it
it's a
going.
really good way to look at it. It's a one-stop shop, and it allows our manufacturer partners, our brands, to say yes to their customers more frequently. That's the way I
Right.
always look at it.
I
So,
love it. And
is
also,
it
and just to
available
add,
through Dot?
like,
Yes, you'll be able to get it on your regular Dot truck. So your operator or your gym will be able to get it, whenever we make a delivery in there.
awesome. I'm like trying to just tell everyone why I'm so excited that you guys are here, which is like you aren't in so many cases going to be able to work directly with some of these distributors also like Cisco. They're not going to want like a pallet from you when you just have a couple accounts, which is why Dot can be so valuable as you're starting up, but then also can move pretty major volume for you as you grow.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Well, this is our distribution network. So we have 13 distribution centers in the U.S. We've got two in Canada. This slide needs to be updated. We've actually closed up shop in our Monterrey, Mexico facility, but we've got 13 DCs. They're all company-owned DCs. They're all multi-temp. So we do dry, frozen, refrigerated, and non-foods products out of every one of these DCs. The dot in the middle, Mount Sterling, Illinois, is the corporate headquarters. That facility is by far our largest. That's about 2 million square feet. And then if you look at the rest of the DCs that we've got around there, they look like a big distributor. So it look like driving past a Cisco OpCo or something like that is what those would look like. Our network is very unique in that we transfer product among these distribution centers on a weekly or daily basis, really. So product can go into Mount Sterling and then go out to all of these other DCs. One of the things that we've done recently, we used to call this hub and spoke, but it got a little more complicated than that because now we've got multiple hubs and spokes. So we can take product into our West Coast DCs for manufacturers that we source on the West, and we can leave product out there because Burley, Bullhead City, and Modesto can all share inventory. We can do the same thing on the East Coast. And what we're trying to do is drive miles and touches out of our network. So making it as cost effective as we can do. Mount Sterling is generally, especially with smaller, more emerging brands, is we started Mount Sterling because Mount Sterling is the only one of our DCs that can touch every one of our other DCs. So the other ones, Burley, Modesto, and Bullhead City, if we're sharing inventory out there, they really can't go east with that product once they're serving that inventory, and those are the only DCs or the only customers they can manage. Mount Sterling touches all of them. So a lot of times when volume is slower to start or smaller to start, we'll start in Mount Sterling because we've got more opportunities to be able to get it to more distributors and more wholesalers. So that's the network. Our transfer network is a huge competitive advantage for us because we can be all over the country. It's also something that we try to avoid. So we get a huge competitive advantage, and we try to avoid it whenever we can because we have enough volume to go directly into one of our DCs. We want to do that because then we can avoid touching the product twice and transfer it among those distribution centers. But again, we can cover the whole country through all these distribution centers, same lead times everywhere, and I'll talk about lead times here in a minute. But that transfer network allows us to do all that. We also have our own fleet. So you may or may not have seen Dot trucks on the road. You've definitely seen them. Now that you hear the name and you see the trucks, now you'll see them everywhere. We've got about 1,700 tractors and 2,600 multi-temp trailers. So we like our distribution centers, where we can do dry, frozen, refrigerated products all on the same truck. We can, or in the same warehouse. We can do the same thing on our trucks. So they're set up so that we can use different temperature controls and bulkheads to be able to deliver multi-temp to all of our customers based on whatever they order. Because we have our own fleet, because we have our own dispatch, because we have our own company employed drivers, our on time is 99.1%. So if you think about that, and the way that that's measured, 99.1%, is how the industry measures it. So same day would be 99.1%. We hold ourselves to a different standard. Our standard is we measure on time being 15 minutes on either side of our delivery window. So same day or within 15 minutes. We feel pretty good about our performance. We're probably more like 98.1% at 15 minutes. So still doing a pretty nice job there. This terminal page really doesn't impact anybody probably on this a whole lot. It really is a strategy for us to reduce miles and to actually help us with driver hiring so we can access different markets. You hear about the driver shortage. We can access different markets by having these drop lots where we can have trailers that are going out west, and they may stop and drop a trailer. A driver coming from the west can pick that up and head back to his DC. He can take whatever he was bringing out and bring it back to Illinois or any of those other DCs. So that's just a strategy for us to reduce miles and to be able to hire more drivers. So this talks a little bit about the channels that we're involved in. 2,580 ship-tos in food service, 1,386 retail ship-tos, and then industrial, kind of the roots of our business. We sell food manufacturers, ingredient products. A very small piece of our business, but it's our roots and our heritage. So we're pretty proud of that. Of the food service ship-tos, So you think about what we talked about earlier, and when Daniel brought up the fact that we're selling Cisco and US and PFG and Gordon and all these guys, then you start looking at the people that are below that. Of that 2,580 ship tos, about 50% of them do less than $10 million a year in sales. So think about that. Cisco and US and all those guys, they're doing a lot of business. But for you guys to reach a lot more points of distribution that are really hard to get to, we're into those DCs or those distributors on a weekly basis or more, with all of the different products that we're able to sell to those guys. So again, the reach of our program based on all these ship tos that we're selling to is pretty vast. On the retail side, we sell about 1,386, and I'm going to show you our retail breakdown because it's a little more fragmented than the food service business, and I'll jump into that now. But food service right now, you think about the distributors. You've got all the big guys and all these other names that you see on there. The other piece of this is national accounts. So if you're a brand or a supplier that's heavily involved or have a product that is really well served by national accounts, and you go in and call on that chain, you go into, Red Robin, and you've got the greatest thing in the world that Red Robin needs to buy. The first thing they're going to probably say after they tell you how good your product is, they're going to go, really, I really want that. And then the next question is going to be, how are you going to get it? And that's where, the combination of these distributors and these national accounts come in. And the next question they're going to ask you, when you look at them and you say, well, I sell to Cisco or whatever. Well, how are they going to get it? And the next thing they're going to say is, are you in Dot Foods? Years ago, none of these national accounts would have known who we are. Today, we call on the culinary folks, we call on the sourcing folks, because now they're saying, before I go in and look at somebody's product that I want to put on my menu, I want to look at Dot's pantry and see what they've got. Then I know my supply chain's taken care of, and it makes it a turnkey solution. When that distributor says, how am I going to get it? We can go, well, you can get it through Dot Foods. I know you're buying a truck a day in there or whatever it is if you're a big Cisco house. So that's really the kind of the combination between these national accounts. We don't sell anything to the national account. We're not backing up to a Red Robin or a Shake Shack or a First Watch. We're going to the distributor, who is then going to the operator, but we make that product much more readily available to them. The retail segment is a little more fragmented for us. So we sell to convenience distributors, grocery wholesalers, self-distributing C-store chains, Casey's, Quick Trip, folks like that, Kroger, Albertsons, Publix, folks like that on the grocery side. And then we also sell to grocery wholesalers, Affiliated Foods, Associated Wholesale Grocers, UNFI, people like that. In drug, we sell every Walmart or Walgreens DC, every CVS DC. Mass, we sell all the Walmart DCs, all the Target DCs. Alternate and club, we don't do quite as much with. If you think about club, it's lots of truckloads and, a lot bigger orders. But we're starting to make some headway in there at places like Costco. And then we've got a military business that is actually growing pretty fast for us right now. You can see some of
Mark,
the
how
banners. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, that's a really impressive retail footprint that you guys have. How would an early brand think about you guys versus like a, more typical retail distributor like UNFI, KeHE, if we're talking about some of these accounts like Wegmans and,
Yeah.
Kroger or stuff like that? What are when would they want to go with you guys versus somebody else?
It's a good question, Daniel, and it's our model is different than theirs. Okay, now UNFI is a customer of ours, so we sell every UNFI DC every week. KeHE we don't do anything with today. Um, so UNFI looks at us for the 80% of their items that do 20% of their volume. So it's the same way a distributor would look at us. It's that they're buying the stuff it's hard for them to source. But if somebody's buying from UNFI because they're going direct to the store and we're not going to go direct to the store, what a retailer likes is the fact that and a brand likes is when we put a program together with a manufacturer, their pricing structure, whatever they want that price to be to a distributor, to a wholesaler, to a chain warehouse, that's what the price that we charge that person is going to be the same thing that they want us to charge that person. UNFI and KE, there's different services. So they bring the product in. Then there's, hey, if I'm going to do the merchandising, it's going to be this. If I'm going to do this, it's going to, and it starts adding layers onto the cost. And when it gets to shelf, it gets to be more expensive. So a retailer likes it because they know what that price is going to be coming in. The brand likes it because I know what the price is always going to be if a product's delivered by Dot. So they know when their product gets to the shelf, it's not going to have all these layers built on top of it, and they're going to have a better chance to be competitive in that marketplace. So that's
Thank you.
really, it's probably the biggest benefit there. I would tell you that we are making a serious push. We've made a lot of serious headway over the last several years on the breadth of our offering. Because I would tell you that's the other thing that we compete with those guys on. They've got a lot of products that are available, and we've really kind of ramped up our efforts in that natural specialty world, being able to really grow there. So that's really kind of those are the differences, and that's kind of what that looks like.
Thank you.
From a customer perspective, we talked about, and again, when I say every time I say customer, I feel like I should say distributor, wholesaler, self-distributing chain, all that. So when I talk customer, I'm talking about the distribution piece. We're 99% on time. Our lead times, 48 to 72 hours anywhere in the country. So somebody could order product on a Tuesday, get it Thursday or Friday. They could order product on a Monday, get it Thursday, or a Thursday, get it Monday or Tuesday. So if you think about it, and that's that transfer network that I showed you. That those lead times are built in there so we can get to all those different places. 72 hours is typically West Coast, anything west of the Rockies. Everything else is more like 48 hours. Now, a lot of distributors look at it and buy it on a weekly basis, and they add on up to that deadline. But the lead time really is 48 to 72 hours anywhere in the country.
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I walk by our transportation routing deal, and we've got some pretty cool software that routes all that stuff. But it's crazy that we can get all that done, especially with the fact that you're transferring product and you're unloading it off a truck, putting it on another truck, and getting it to a distributor.
Yeah.
The access piece. So we've got 125,000-ish SKUs that are set up in our system. We stock about 50,000 of them. The gap there, the 75,000 that we don't stock, they would just require additional lead time if somebody wanted to buy it, but it's less than 2% of our overall business. So the 50,000 SKUs that we stock are the ones that are driving the business. A distributor, wholesale, a customer, I'm just going to keep saying that, it's customer. A customer has no individual product line minimum. So any brand that's part of our program, there's no individual minimum. So it's one case is really what your minimum becomes to the customer. All right. So if you think about that, as long as somebody can buy 5,000 pounds of product from Dot among 1,500 manufacturers, 20 or 50,000 SKUs, as long as they can buy 5,000 pounds, they could buy one case of any product and be able to have that on the regular Dot truck. Our fill rates are very good, getting better. I mean, COVID kind of wiped everybody out on fill rates, and we're making a steady climb north on fill rates right now, and then increased sales and profits. So the fact that they can say yes to their customers more, they can beat the competitors to the punch when they're looking at adding products to their offering. From a manufacturer's perspective, from a brand perspective, it's really about reach and it's about reducing expenses. I mean, it's about that reach to 2,850 food service guys, 1,380 retailers, and then the capacity. I showed you that we've got 13 DCs that we can help increase capacity, 1,700 trucks, 2,600 trailers. So all of those things combined are what suppliers and brands look like. The stuff that I'm talking about right now is more the heavy lifting, the supply chain side. The fun part's going to be after this boring graph that I show you here in a couple minutes. It's about how do we reach all these customers? What fun bells and whistles do you have that can help me get to all the customers that we want to sell? Supplier identity is a made-up dot word. And really what it means is that the customer that we sell is still your customer that's sourcing product through Dot. So any of the financial support, sales support, credit and visibility on sales, access to channels, offering your full product line, all that stuff remains in place when Dot's involved. We're going to report the sales back to you on a regular basis. So you know who those customers are because, frankly, we've got a sales team in all those different channels. You don't want them going in and selling your products. You want them going and selling the availability of your products and the fact that they can get those products as part of a logistics solution that makes it easier for them to buy. But if somebody's asking about, tell me why this kumquat is better than the other kumquat, our people are going to have a hard time answering that question because, when you're talking about 50,000 SKUs and 1,500 manufacturers, they need to know enough to be dangerous, who you are, what you have, and what's kind of the type of customer that you want to go after with those types of products. So that's what we call supplier identity. The second piece of this partnership slide, this is really when somebody asks me, what do you look for when you're going to partner with a brand, with a manufacturer? And these are probably the 6 things that I tell them, this is what we need to make sure that you're doing or that we're working towards to be able to partner with Dot. Volume is probably the number one question I get all the time. And the way I answer this, and it can be different for a lot of different reasons, but we've got to have the ability to get frequency of your products in a cost-effective, efficient manner. And that can mean you deliver it to us. That can mean we pick it up, but it's got to be cost-effective and efficient for both of us to be able to have access to your products every 7 to 10 days. Because if we don't have frequency of access to the products, inventories are going to get out of whack. The product's going to spoil out. We're going to have all kinds of challenges if we're not able to turn that inventory every 7 to 10 days. What is that number? That's the other question I always get. What does that mean when you say those things? Well, if you think about it, shipping me a pallet every 7 to 10 days is not very cost effective. That's going to be really expensive. But when you start getting up into, several pallets, every 7 to 10 days, you can start to look at the economy of scale to be able to do that. Different products have different dynamics. You've got high cube stuff. So I don't throw a pound number. We measure everything in pounds. We're distribution guys. But I hate to throw a pound number out there when you're talking about high cube product because it's not the same thing. So it's number of pallets. So I would tell you 4 to 6 pallets every 7 to 10 days or very close to that is typically, what starts to make this cost effective. Channels, we want to sell in all channels. I showed you what we're doing in terms of channels. What's your sales strategy, your pricing structure? Because your pricing structure is going to help us dictate what the cost of the program is. Do you have an FOB and a delivered price that we can actually gain some spread in there to be able to have some of the gross margin covered when you're talking about that? And I'll get in that next slide here. Are you FOB plus freight on every one of your orders? So we don't do that. We're a delivered price. So we would need to convert everything to a delivered price. So we need to understand what that looks like. So there's lots of different, if you think about all the number of manufacturers we've got, we've seen just about everything. We had to have. It's the FOB plus freight. There's delivered pricing. There's bracket pricing. There's all kinds of different zone pricing, all kinds of different scenarios out there that we can work with, but we need to understand what that is. EDI, we do all of our ordering, invoicing, sales reporting. Everything is done via EDI today, and then our GS1 compliance. We are almost militant about making sure that we've got the right information on your products so we can help sell those products. We put them on our website. It's got, nutritionals, images, dynamics, dimensions, all the different pieces that are on there. And as long as that stuff is in there, it's going to help us sell more of your products because when a customer goes to look for it, they've got all that information at their fingertips. So those are kind of the big things. That the GS1 and the volume are probably the close to non-negotiables. I would tell you GS1 is probably more of a non-negotiable than the volume because again, as long as that volume's headed in the right direction, we may make we may take some liberties with that. Anything there? That's usually one that gets a little airtime.
No, I think
Okay.
for me that part was pretty clear. I think the one thing that everybody probably is wondering in general, which I've seen in the chat a bunch also, is like, you guys are amazing. How can I work with you? Like, what do I need to have to actually be able to work with you guys? How many accounts do I need to bring? Or, who would you work with and when? Let's say if we're talking about the earlier side.
Well, I'm going to leave a little time at the end. Let me jump in and answer a few of those questions at the end. Let me get through these next couple slides, and then I'll hit exactly
Perfect.
what that looks like. This slide here is what I call a picture of our program if I were to draw one. So if you think about the supply chain stuff that we've been talking about, the cost up the left axis and the shipment size across the right. The yellow bar is the cost. Pretty easy stuff. The higher cost on your lowest order size. As your orders get bigger, your costs go down. The next thing we do, and part of what I'm going to talk about and how you work with us, is trying to understand, who your customers are, what your products look like, where do we source it, how much does it weigh, how many cases per pallet, how much can I get on a truck, all those different distribution questions. Then we're going to come back to you with a number that says the cost of the DOT program is this. That's that blue line. That's a constant number. So because you sell to, this customer who's smaller, that customer who's bigger, whatever it is, that is a constant number, the DOT cost. And then the next part that we're trying to get to is, okay, if I have a business that is this size and bigger, then it probably makes more sense for me to ship that direct. If it's this size, the dotted line, or smaller, that's the magic number that Dot Foods should be your distribution solution for anybody that's that size and below. So we've got lots of manufacturers, and there's lots of activity today that folks are saying, you know what, my cost at this intersection is that is the smallest order, that's the smallest order I'm ever going to sell direct. Everything there and above, I'm going to sell on a direct basis. Everything below that line, I'm going to sell to Dot. So at 5 pallets or less, I'm not even going to take your order. I'm going to move you over to Dot. They're going to ship it. No minimum on your products, same price, all the different pieces there. If I get 6 pallets and that customer wants to buy it from me direct, then I'll sell it to them direct. So that dotted line is what you try to figure out when I come back to you with a light blue line. So that's kind of where we try to get to that number. A lot of emerging brands are going to be, in a situation where almost everything is to the left of that line. The goal is we grow stuff to the right of that line. So if I always get the question, what if my customers get too big for Dot? So they're buying and I can do it better direct. My answer to somebody on that is always, hey, it worked. We were able to help you. We got you in. We helped you build your business. That customer got to a point where they could buy direct. Great. Let's go back and get 10 more and do the same thing.
And Park, just to like confirm on the cost. So typically, like brands you were saying you can know what the cost that you guys are going to sell to somebody at, right? Like you can kind of influence that or decide it. And what brands are going to pay you guys, I believe, is like there's going to be a cost per pound for stuff that you process. And what are the other components?
There's a total gross margin number that I need to make this work. Part of this is going to be dependent on how that product is sold today from a price standpoint. So let's say somebody's got one national delivered price, all right? And let's say it's still fairly small volume, probably not enough for me to pick it up. So you're going to deliver it to my distribution center, okay? Well, you're probably going to deliver it to me for the national delivered price. Well, I'm going to sell it for the same national delivered price. And then I'm going to look at where that product is going. I'm going to look at how much it weighs, how many cases per pallet, what the cube is, how much I can get on a truck, all of that different stuff. And I'm going to run it through a model, and it's going to say, Park, you need 25 cents a pound to be able to service that business. Well, since I'm buying it and selling it for the same price, 25 cents a pound would come off that price as the cost to serve that business. So this is really important here. When you recognize that 25 cents, 90+% of that is supply chain cost. Okay, it's cost that I'm offsetting. I'm making your business more efficient because you're doing less single case picks, more layers and pallets. You're reducing your inbound orders from however many customers it down to one. Your credit and collection, you're now collecting from one customer versus however many customers were out there. So all of these costs are being consolidated, should make it more efficient for you. So that 25 cents is recognized primarily as supply chain costs. Now, there is sales value there. Your products now become available one case at a time with 2 to 3 day lead time anywhere in the country, and that should be recognized. And that's more that's a little that's a little more vague, because for somebody that is all in the Midwest or all on the West Coast and they're trying to expand their business, that might be more important than to somebody that's already national and are just looking for more points of distribution. So there's differences in how that looks. There's other different scenarios where part of, let's say there's enough volume there that I can pick it up for an FOB price and there's a delivered price. Well, now I'm going to pick it up at FOB. I'm going to charge the delivered price. So part of that 25 cents is already in that spread. So let's say 12 cents of that is in the spread. Well, now I just need 13 cents to get to that net cost. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on to the sales stuff here. So we've got sales resources in every channel. We've got a different sales team in every one of these different channels. They're calling on distributors, wholesalers, brokers. We're bringing opportunities to brokers. The corporate folks are calling on the big guys. We've got a grocery team, drug mass, C-store, all these different teams. So they're dedicated to those channels. The distributor, wholesaler, retailer is still your customer. I talked about that earlier. It's your customer sourcing product through DOT. We have full transparency on all their transactions. We're going to report back nightly via EDI. Now, on the sales side of EDI, there is an option that you can go onto our website and pull reporting off of our website if you don't have that capability on the EDI side from a sales reporting standpoint. My suggestion is always that you invest in the EDI transaction sets, because that information just flows into your system on a regular basis.
And a sales resource, like you said this before, it's not like they're picking up the phone and saying like, "Hey, Cisco, wouldn't you like to buy this person's brand?" Right? It's more like they are on the phone with them, but they're just like helping them with the availability of products.
They're in their office making a sales call, and they're talking about, tell me about what you're doing in this category. And
going through what's available.
Somebody says, "Hey, here's who I'm buying from in this category." Well, how much is your minimum? How is that going? Is it hard to buy? Blah blah blah. And they say, "Yeah, that's really kind of a pain in the neck for me to buy." Well, have you ever talked to these companies in this category? Because they're available through DOT, one case at a time, 2 to 3 day lead time, turn your inventory faster, all that. So they'll basically tee up those opportunities. And then when that customer says, "Well, yeah, well, tell me about ABC company and tell me about their product offering and all that," and our guy's going to go, "Look, you don't want me answering those questions. Let me get you in touch with so-and-so at ABC company to be able to help close that sale." So it's kind of a collaborative sales approach.
Amazing.
We have a lot of different marketing opportunities for our manufacturers, for our brands. So a lot of you have probably heard about our trade show. Some of you might have been at our trade show at some point. Innovations is fast becoming one of the best shows in the industry. We had this year in Denver, we just had it in April, we had almost 980 customers. So we had chain accounts, we had food distributors, we had retail wholesalers, retailers. We had all these folks in Denver. We had about 450 booths at our show. They're all manufacturers of DOT. So I'm going to give you I'll give you my pitch here. We get all kinds of people saying, "Well, can I just come walk the show?" The show would be nuts if we did that. I mean, it's crazy enough as it is, but it's only really our manufacturers that are able to come to the show. We've got product marketing opportunities, whether that be e-blasts, whether that be banner ads, whether that be buying exclusive search terms. So when somebody, if you buy kumquat, you're the first kumquat that shows up when somebody searches kumquats. So there's all kinds of different options there, different campaigns. We have an incentive program that is kind of tied into the food show that runs all year long for, sale. Customers can buy product from, or new products from manufacturers that they haven't bought before, earn points, potentially earn a trip that we do every year. So that's just the tip of the iceberg on this stuff, but those are the highlights. The innovations trade show is the highlight. The rest of it is really good and can be tailored. I mean, it's not like the other thing about us. If you want to participate in our marketing programs, that's great. And we hope you do, and we hope we provide you with a lot of value. If you don't, we're not going to go, okay, well, we're not going to talk about your stuff. It's really about helping you grow your business, helping you grow sales. It's not about, it's not about us, just trying to make a bunch of money on marketing. It's really, can we provide value? And do you perceive the value that we're bringing? Finally, samples. We've got a group called customized services. Customized services does a lot of samples. So if you think about high cost supply chains, samples are the highest cost supply chain. It's breaking cases, it's small orders, it's hard to get where you want them to go. So we've got opportunities to get samples to sales reps' houses, to customer locations, operator locations, events. Well, we have our customized services guys walking around at all the big trade shows because we're delivering consolidated loads of samples into the convention centers so that folks can go grab their samples off of there. We sell to brokers' offices. So the samples go to a broker's office where instead of ordering samples from 50 different manufacturers, they can place one order and get it to wherever their cold storage or wherever they're keeping their samples is. We can deliver it there. We do different packaging and assembly projects. If you think about shippers and things like that, we have the inventory. All we need to get is the actual corrugate, and then we'll say, okay, warehouse guy over here, today you're going to be building shippers for whatever brand. So there's all these different things. When you think customized services, that's truly what it is. If you tell us, can you do this? Then they're going to say, well, let me think about that. And then they're going to say, well, let me give you a cost study on that, and we'll tell you what it would cost you for us to do that. So that's another benefit to you from a sales standpoint. And really, the last thing I wanted to touch on here is .foods.com. That's our website. That is where all products are available. It has all that. They click on that item, all that nutritional information comes up, talks about anything that's being promoted. It really is something that a buyer at a customer walks into their office in the morning, they log on to their system and they log on to .foods.com because during the day, somebody's going to ask them, do we have this? Can we get this? And that buyer's going to go in there and search all that stuff, and it's right there at their fingertips. People can order off of it, not a whole lot do. It's really more of it's almost like a Google for the food industry. You go in there and you find out what you're looking for, and everything's available there. It's got all the pricing. It's got stock status. If it's a special order, it'll say if you ordered it today, here's when you would get it. It tells you who the broker is, and how you get in touch with that person. So it's really a one-stop shop type concept that over the years we developed this thing in-house. We called it the Dot Expressway. A lot of you are probably familiar with it as the Dot Expressway. We rebranded it. We've gotten a lot of really smart people that have made it really cool and really user friendly. But that's .foods.com, and once you are part of our program, you're able to see that product, your product. You can't see everybody's product, but you can see yours and have all that information. But the customer sees everybody's. So that's it. This is our brand promise, trusted values. I talked about us being a family-owned company in the Midwest. We want to be trustworthy. We want to be people that you want to do business with. We are very innovative in terms of trying to, use technology, be entrepreneurial, stay focused on creating solutions. What are the problems that you have? Every time one of the owners of the business gets up in front of us, he goes, "What business are we in?" And if the answer is not solving problems, then we're wrong. So we need to make sure that we continue to look for ways to solve those solutions or solve those problems. And then obviously, if we can do that, we're all going to grow. So we like to share in that growth. So that's it. That was that's kind of the .foods 101, and hopefully that helped. And just kind of open things up with them. Let me hit on the question about who do you get in touch with? How do you do all that? And it probably makes some sense for me Daniel, to get you. We have what we call a brand template. And the brand template really is, it's three tabs on the brand template. Part of it is, hey, tell me a little bit about your business, ask you a bunch of questions about what channels you operate in, all that kind of stuff. And then the second tab is really, who are you selling? Who are your LTL customers and what are you selling them? Who they are, where they are, and what they're buying, because that gives us the opportunity to look at that and say, okay, where are you in the life cycle in terms of being ready for DOT? And that will give me the opportunity to get that to my team and at least start that conversation. Because again, there's going to be folks on this call that aren't ready for us yet. There's going to be folks on this call that are ready for us yet. And whenever I say that, I'm not saying that because I don't want to discourage anyone. It's more about, it might not, it's never a no, it's a not yet sometimes. And and sometimes that's where we are. But in a lot of cases, we'll take a look and be able to figure it out and make it work.
Okay, so that template, maybe I can send that out to everybody
Yeah,
if you share it with me.
I'll just shoot that to
And then
you.
what do they do with should brands all just like submit off the website, or how do they even like?
The bonus for you being on this webinar today is that you get the brand template. Don't go to the website. If somebody asks you, hey, what do I do to get into DOT? We've got a form on our website. It's, I'd rather have you fill out the brand template because that's what, I'm going to ask you for that anyway.
Okay.
So I'm getting you to skip a spot.
All right. And then what do they do with it? They email it in. It has an instructions for how to send it.
I'll send you the template. I'll give you, just use my email address and I'll get it out to my folks.
All right. So everybody, we will send that out to you as a special benefit for joining. And so, Park, it sounds like, hey, there's not a specific requirement. You don't need like exactly X number of doors. You don't have to have this specific account to work with us. Like, you're going to look at what's in the presentation. You're going to look at what they do, what their volume. Okay. And is there some kind of I hope it's above this volume or anything, or kind of pounds or?
Well, the pounds thing I don't like to use because some of you guys on this call are going to have high cube product. And if I use pounds, I'm going to go, that doesn't make any sense. It's usually somewhere around 4 to 6 pallets every 7 to 10 days. Ballpark.
Okay.
Don't be discouraged and not send your brand template in because of that. Because there could be a phone call follow-up might be, well, tell me about who you're, what's in the pipeline. What I want on the brand template is kind of real life. This is business that's out there today. The phone conversation or the email follow-up could generate, well, tell me a little bit about your pipeline to be able to see how close we can get, to have things started.
All right. So there are some more questions, but I think actually this would be a good segue to invite the First Bite team to show a little bit of their tool because, Park mentioned that their team might be out there if their customers looking for stuff, telling them about what's available, like, oh, okay, here's the kind of stuff that we have, but you must go out there and drive the business. Like you want to get to 4 to 6 pallets every 7 to 10 days. Your team has got to be on it. And First Bite has just one of the coolest tools out there to be prospecting and trying to figure out how do I actually set up the operators, the demand out there who need the product and thus are going to call the distributors who then want the products from DOT. So Matt, do you mind sharing? You can take over the screen share here.
Perfect.
And show us. And then we'll get back to Park at the end just for another question or two. All right.
Can you see that now, Daniel?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks for having us. So First Bite is basically a go-to-market platform for reaching food service end users, restaurant buyers, non-commercial buyers, and so on. The founder and myself actually both were at Impossible Foods for 10 plus years. DOT was probably one of our closest partners in that journey of growing from a startup brand in the Bay Area to reaching 50,000 restaurants across the country. So couldn't be more thankful to DOT for the partnership there and helping us reach across the country into smaller gourmet distributors, smaller mom and pop restaurants. Super important partner for us. Quick overview on us. Really the go-to-market program for scaling your food service business. So we've tried to combine a food service CRM, the deepest operator data set around who's buying what, who's the ideal restaurant operator for you to reach out to for your products, along with prospecting tools and rebates tools. Try to combine that all into a single platform. I think we felt there was nothing really out there meant for food service businesses. So that's First Bite. I'd love to maybe just show a quick example, if that works, Daniel,
Yes,
of like what the
please.
tool actually looks like and how
Yes,
people
it's
use
so
it.
good. And I just dropped a link for everyone in the chat if you want to check out First Bite also, but you're probably going to want to after you
we'd
see
love
this.
to spend time with folks. If you want to just kind of get a deep dive and see what it looks like for your particular category, we'd love to spend time if you book a meeting on our website. I'll do a quick kind of case study. So a customer that we spoke to recently, kimchi brand, trying to expand in the US. So huge Japanese brand that's looking to expand. And for them, their priority was sort of smaller chain restaurant buyers. They wanted to get in touch directly and kind of build that demand at the end user level. So they would, within First Bite, filter by chain size. For example, chains between 1 and 100 doors. And then they can search and try and find who's already buying kimchi on menu today and get a sense of just how big is that market in the US. So, 10,000 chains, 16,000 locations. It gives them a rough sense. And with this particular customer, they were kind of excited about finding operators using non-traditional sort of menu applications for kimchi. So something like kimchi and burgers as a search parameter for them is like, where are all the restaurants across the US that have kimchi on menu are also serving burgers? And that brought to life sort of the segment of, folks you typically wouldn't think as target customers for their brand. Yes, there's Japanese restaurants, there's Italian, there's American chains, there's burger chains, and so on. And so that's just sort of step one, right? From here, we could create a campaign. And the next steps within First Bite is sort of all of what we call workflow tools and CRM tools. So getting in touch with the specific buyers at all these accounts and running sequencing, tailored messaging after those campaigns and sort of making them aware of your product, building demand at the operator level. That's just a quick overview. Would love to spend some more time with folks. I think the summary with First Bite is we have the details on basically every food service buyer, potential customer in the US. We have the workflow tools to get in touch directly. And then all of this is built in to our CRM to track those deals from sort of outreach to completion. So it makes it really, really efficient to sort of scale up in food service as a growing brand.
All right. I love it. And I just want to use this to figure out where to eat too. Who's got kimchi and burgers? Let's get set up. All right. I'm going to Bear Burger. Let's go. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt and the First Bite team. You guys just support a lot of the fun stuff that we get to do. So just a reminder to everyone, chat with these guys. If you want to just see this tool a little bit more, they're very nice. They will show you cool stuff. And I just pasted the website in the chat again. So definitely chat with them. People who like really know this business have great things to say. Okay, Park, I just want to finish. And Park, this stuff is cool, right? Like this stuff did not used to exist, right?
Very cool.
Yeah. I'm like, probably, Matt, having been at Impossible, you like remember how much time you could have saved yourself if you had had this back in the day, right?
Exactly. We were manually reaching out, manually searching brands. So
all right. That's what we want. We want the volume for Dot. So, okay. So Park, just a couple, other questions that, have come in. So I think we answered a lot of them. I'm just kind of looking through here.
Let me hit one that came up a few times.
Yeah, please.
I was just looking through the chat here a minute ago. OTIF, on time, in full, all the fun fees and stuff that you get hit with by a lot of the bigger distributors and retailers. We basically insulate the brand from those fees because everything is now on a Dot truck. So unless unless I got nailed with a bunch of shortages because you shorted me, a full truckload of product or something like that, anything that is, if our truck's late, if there's a bunch of damage, if we don't, if our service level is a hit because of us, all of that stuff goes away. Lumper fees at the dock, anything that you are experiencing through either yourselves or your carriers, that becomes a dot cost that we would take on. So that's another, when you start looking at when you look at your overall supply chain costs, that stuff should be factored into what you're doing today and how much of that you're getting hit with. And, that should be significantly reduced if we're making deliveries.
And someone had asked also about, you like go through some of the broadliners and deliver to Wegmans, whoever, they're going to be chargebacks, when you're doing programs with them and stuff like that. How does does that work differently with Dot? Like, do you actually deduct stuff or?
We pass deductions through. So if you've got a program with Wegmans, and whatever it was for, and it's something they deduct for, they're paying me now because I'm paying you, and if they deduct and it's legit, and we ask them to provide us the same backup they would provide you, and they deduct it from us, we're going to pass that deduction through. We also we have everything on a portal, and if you cry foul on that, there's a dispute button on that, which would stop the process, and we'd have to go back to Wegmans and say, hey, Brand is saying that's not legit. We may need your help to go out and say why, but that whole process is really a pass through. But from our perspective, we're not going to whack you for a bunch of stuff like that. If you sign up for marketing, then yeah, there's a bill for marketing, and we may deduct that if that's how you choose to have us do it. But in terms of, hey, there's a lumper that you didn't pay for, or there's what there's so many different things people get deducted for now, but all that stuff is really legitimate deductions passed through. If you think about us, 1,500 manufacturers, the number of deductions that we have on a daily basis is just some mind-blowing number, and 95-ish% of them are legit. It's the 5% that take all the time and resource and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So we're just hitting time now. Park, I really want to thank you again. I think this information is just so valuable, especially the offer that you made, so we can send out the brand template for everybody to send something back and, put your best foot forward. I think my overall advice for everybody is like, this is like, don't just dip your toe into food service and try to just go with that. Like, this needs to be part of your food service strategy. If you're really committing to this channel, you need to go out and have a way to like actually go out and get customers and volume and commit investment and resources to this channel. And Dot can be a great partner. It's not a way just to like pick up a couple extra accounts that isn't really core to what you're doing. If you build up volume and you're lucky enough to work with them, they're just one of the most reliable partners out there. And I think you probably can feel from Park some of the like Dot culture is they say what they're going to do and then they do it, So just a really awesome opportunity for us to get to chat with you. Matt knows what I'm talking about. He's worked with them as well. And so just one of the most respected partners in the business. So I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions. We had over 200 people on, but you will have Park's, contact information and from the templates as well. So I hope that it's been helpful to everyone. Thank you again to our partners at First Bite for helping us get to do all of this cool content out there, and definitely set up time with them if you want to dig through their tool at all and just see all of the cool stuff that might be out there for you. They'll give you a demo. I just posted it in the chat one more time.